My name is Pete.
Pete, thank you so much, Pete. Yeah,
Yep.
appreciate it. All right, so let us go ahead and get started here. Let me just share my screen. And also, let's see. Okay, cool. All right, share PowerPoint. And all right, let me know, guys, if you can see my PowerPoint screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yep.
Awesome, perfect. All right, so we'll do quick intros and then I'll give it to Michelle and then we'll talk about the classroom and then go from there. So how does that sound? Sounds good? Okay, cool. Alrighty. So this is my history, nursing, psych, business, um, IT, been teaching this for more than a decade now. Created a community healthcare project management association. We now have close to 5,000 members there. Active with HIMSS. Have you guys heard of HIMSS, the healthcare technology group? Cool. So been working on public policy there. Do some speaking once a year. And recently I posted a book on Amazon. It's Flow Like Water. And love for you guys to check it out. And if you like to leave a review, that would be super helpful. It's crazy because I started this 2 years ago, and the genesis of this was for the past, I don't know, 8 years now at UCLA. I would weave in stories about, the companies that do things well and don't do it well. And 2 years ago, I said, let me just start putting this on paper so that I don't forget for you guys. And then about 4 months ago, I'm like, I might be able to, instead of just making it uh, like an appendix or a reference book, like I could probably weave this into like a story format and make it a book. And we published it last month and Amazon liked it and picked it up as part of their unlimited series. And now it's number 10 in the business ethics section. So yeah, so if you want to get ahead on the stories that I'll be telling in the next 10 weeks, it's all in this book. And hopefully you'll find some nuggets too as to how you can apply it for your own leadership. So so there's that. And also did my TEDx this year, busy year. And I know. And it was the first to have an AI co-speaker. So I created a GPT called Hannah, and she was my co-speaker for my talk. Um, and super excited to report that. So Hannah, her back end programming is all about empathy, compassion, helping you with loneliness, depression, anxiety, and all of that. And so it's been picked up by rehab centers. So there are two rehab centers in LA that are using it for their clients as an adjunct. So I know. And I'm currently talking with another group that helps ex gang members, ex-convicts, and all of that to help as an adjunct to their therapy. So when I was putting this together, the thought that, former gang members would be using, my GPT to help them, the dark nights of the soul was just not in, yeah. But so yeah, it's been a super busy year. And lastly, I met the former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Kathleen Kennedy, and she's an advisor for the Navy. And she said, "Hey, Ian, I think cybersecurity is the next biggest threat, not ships, which she was working on. Would you would you want to help me put together the Kennedy Center for Cybersecurity?" I'm like, sure, why not? So now we've been we've been virtual school hopping, introducing this idea of the Kennedy Center for Cybersecurity, and it seems like Georgetown is a yes, pending funding, of course, and also we have Loyola, which is also and Seattle University, really excited to kind of weave it into their curriculum. So yeah, been working on pushing that, and we're trying to put together, as I call it, the Avengers, because I haven't grown up yet. The Avengers of cybersecurity. We're pulling in the sharpest minds in the country to help put together public policy for legislation, federal legislation, and also to serve as a think tank for private companies. So I don't have a life. So that is what I've been up to this year. And I'm super excited. For those of you who weren't in the orientation, um, my Avenger superpower for this class is actually Michelle. Before Michelle joined the group, it was a mess trying to help you guys with the test scores and oh my God, I won't go into it. But needless to say, Michelle rescued that part of the session, and I'd love Michelle for you to just introduce yourself again for those who weren't here, and we'll go into the classroom.
Well, I'll start by saying don't get your hopes up too high. Ian's giving me too much credit. So
No, you'll see.
it's to be realistic.
Uh, you'll
My
say, yeah, Ian undersold Michelle. So yeah, that's what.
He is overselling me, but I am here. My primary focus, I will not be with you guys on Fridays. I'm only on your study session that you've been assigned to. Thank you to everyone who signed up. My name is Michelle Bangara. I'm a secondary teacher and I work at a public school. I'm also just an education consultant, which is why I work with Ian because this is an educational class. So what I do is I help you guys with your study session so that you feel prepared to take your PMP exam. Like we talked about last week, for those of you who weren't there, the primary focus, of course, is for you guys to gain skills in project management, to give, like added value to UCLA and your roles. But also my objective is for you to take the test. So in order to do that, of course, we want you to be prepared, and that's what your Tuesday or Wednesday session is about. I have 11 of you who signed up for your Tuesday, and I have 13 signed up for their Tuesday session. 11 are signed up for Wednesday, which means that we are missing people. So if you look in the chat, these are people who were not able to come to our orientation. If your name's in that list, you are not signed up for a Google Classroom with me and your study session. You have been assigned the Wednesday study session, and I sent an email to your UCLA MedNet email. If you could check that and look for an email from me, it would be at mbangara, I'll put that here, at gmail.com. In case it got filtered out for some reason, you have an invitation code there. You just need to press on it so that you can get to your Google Classroom. And just so everyone can see, Ian, I'm going to go ahead and share. So I did stop your,
Please.
but
Yeah, yeah. Go
what your
for it.
Google Classroom looks like. You do want to make sure that you have this added because it will have all of the resources you need from Ian and from me. I just like to house it in one spot for you. So the first thing is, here's our schedule. So just so you know, we have our Friday session today, the 8th. Ian will see you again on the 15th. He'll see you on the 22nd, and then you have a Labor Day break. So there is no class on the 29th. Please don't sign on. You'll be very lonely by yourself. Okay. After that 29th session, it also means that we don't have sessions September 2nd or 3rd, depending if you're in Tuesday or Wednesday, because we always follow Ian. So if Ian doesn't have a class, we won't have a class following that because we're like the follow-up to what he did with you guys. So again, this schedule is just posted on your Google Classroom. It will stay there forever so that you see it. You can see that we'll be done with our cohort October 21st, just in time for Halloween. So if you've got kids and a million things to do for them, great. You'll have that whole week to prep because you will not be doing this anymore. So we have our schedule there. I also have for you our Zoom link for your study session. So your study session Zoom link never changes. I just keep it the same. I make it simple. So log into Google Classroom, press on the link. I don't send you out Outlook reminders. Please block your time off on your calendar yourself if you haven't done that yet for Tuesdays up until October 22nd or 23rd. So you can see all the people who added here. And then of course, here's your classwork. You can see we're starting with integration management on Tuesday. or Wednesday, whichever your session is. I'm going to give you a slide deck. I'm going to give you a practice quiz, and I'm writing you brand new notes right now. So I am rereading Pinbox 6. It's a thrilling read that you guys will see. It's 70 pages, that first integration management. It's a lot about the tools, techniques, inputs, outputs, etc. because Pinbox 6 is very process oriented. Whereas Pinbox 7 is a little bit more narrative that you'll go over with Ian, and it focuses a lot more on like leadership and not just that like the processes and structures of project management. It's a lot more integrative. So I am rereading Pinbox 6. I will make notes for you. Those notes will come to you on Google Classroom. You do not need to make your own. I will make the notes editable. So as you're reading, if you'd like to add to my notes in your own style and put in what you think is important, you're more than welcome to do that. And then you will own those notes forever. So you will have already my notes. Right now, I've done 25 pages of the 70-page chapter, and I'm already at like 9 pages of notes, but it's not like narrative. It is like kind of outliney. So you can see like Pinbox 6 is pretty big and there's a lot of information. It's why I want to do it for you first so you don't have to like wade through too much of it. It'll still be a condensed version of those 70 pages for you. So I'll always give you that. I'll always give you a slide deck, which is right here. And you can see this is how I break it up for you. The process, the outputs. We'll go over every process. I'll pull out some important stuff for you that is just you need to know. So you will own this too. You'll see it, you'll have it, etc. And then we'll do a quiz in class. Okay. So for those of you again who have not signed up, please sign up. I sent your name in the chat. Check your email. If you have any issue with getting on, just let Ian know. Or you can email me. I sent my email in the chat and I will try and get you on before Tuesday or Wednesday. So before I sign off, does anybody have any questions for me?
Let's actually, for those on the list, are you guys on the call? Let's make sure that you guys get signed up.
See, we only have 26 people on the call too, so that means only 24 people from the actual class, not counting me and you. So I see we're still missing people. And to me, it looks like some of these people from the non-orientation list. I think I saw Alicio on. So I know that he's here, but I don't know. I don't see Jeff, Melissa, Leona, and Rich. I do not see them.
Hey,
Okay.
Michelle, I'm here. I'm here. I'm La sorry, I'm Laana. And I was checking, but I don't see anything or I haven't received anything. So if I need to
In your MedNet email?
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, I will resend it right now. So Alicio, you two, were you able to get the email?
It's with Leona's.
You can't find it?
I did, yeah.
Sure. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do right now. I'm actually gonna send you guys a link in the chat. So what I need you to do, let me see if I could do this. Copy class invite link. So Leona, I am gonna just send it to everyone. Everyone, don't press on this link. You'll mess your Google Classroom up. But Alicio and Leona, if you could press on that link and let me know if it takes you to Google Classroom, that would be great.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, just go ahead and accept that invitation. I will double check on my end. Someone else is on there. So you just have to, I think, accept it. To be honest, I don't know what it looks like on your end. I've never accepted Classroom. I'm
Yeah,
always
it doesn't directly take me. It requires a Google account. Is that
yes. So
okay?
Alicio and Leona,
Laana.
Leona, you have to have a Gmail account. You cannot use MedNet. So if you want to just, I will re-email you this link and then you can forward it to a Gmail account. If you have to make a new Gmail account specifically for this PMP, you can do that.
Okay.
And then you have to open it on a Gmail account only. But
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
email you on your UCLA MedNet emails as well.
No, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions for me before I go back to work?
I just want to confirm our time is 3:30 to 5:30 Tuesday or Wednesday, correct?
Yes, 3:30 to
Thank you.
5:30. And depending on what that's a good question, Kenny. Depending on what our content is, sometimes we'll be done by 5. which would be nice for everyone. So we will see what we can do, but you know, it also depends on the length of the tests that you guys are working with together. But so block out till 5:30, and then if we can get done earlier, then we'll try and get done earlier.
Awesome. Good
All right.
questions. Well,
Okay.
Michelle, always a pleasure seeing you.
Yeah. All
And
right. I'll see you guys next week.
awesome, awesome.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Cool. And just finishing up with links. So here's the link to the book as well for you guys to check out and read and be ahead of the stories. Just don't say the punchlines. They didn't make it. So yes. Awesome. So next volunteer that I need is at the hour. So at the hour, at 11 or this afternoon at 3, we take a 10-minute break. So if someone wants to be the volunteer, be the time czar, to just say, hey, time for us to go on break, that'd be greatly appreciated. Any volunteers?
I
Just
can
need
be the time czar today.
times are all right,
Yeah.
all right, cool. So yeah, we'll take a 10-minute break and come back. And with that, we can go ahead and get started. And as always, if you guys have questions, please, I want this to be as interactive as possible. And the more that you can ask about the work that you're currently doing or have worked on in the past, it will make, it'll make the text come alive, because this is hard content to get through. As you guys probably know, passing rate for the PMP overall is around 28%. And for us, thankfully, our passing rate is in the high 90s. So the reason for that is we're not just here to give you guys ideas to memorize and regurgitate on the test. We're here to help you understand and see where we can use this. And as we go through, you're going to hear from me a lot, things you can do on Monday. So these are going to be actionable steps that you can use, beginning of the week. So that's it. Now let's get started. So Google Classroom seems like everyone is either signed up or working on it. Was anyone not in the orientation that's here today? I'd love for you guys to also get a chance to introduce yourself. Just quickly your name, what you do, and we last orientation we talked about either the country that you went to last or the country that you're planning to go to next. So, anyone on the call that wasn't here in orientation?
Hey, Ian, I'll jump in. Hi, my name is Laana.
Hey, Ella.
I got lost as soon as you said what country. I was like, okay, wait, what were the other two? I'm here, UCLA Health IT. I'm in the strategic communications team, and I manage a portfolio of programs related to employee experience.
Right.
And is it the farthest that I traveled, or was it the country that I last come?
Oh yeah, whichever. It was a
Okay.
orientation. We went with either the country you visited last or the next one you're planning on. So, whichever
Okay.
you feel like
Plan
sharing.
on visiting, um, mm, that's a great one. Maybe, you know what, there's been dialogue about either going to Puerto Rico or
Nice.
Portugal. So one of those I'm manifesting.
So are you just filtering by what starts with letter P?
No, that was actually I didn't even recognize that. That's actually totally coincidental. My son's rooting for Portugal.
Yeah.
Everyone else is rooting for the other. So,
Nice. Well,
but nice to be here. Thank you.
yeah, no worries. And both of them have amazing cuisine, so you won't be disappointed with the food. Cool. Welcome, welcome. Anyone else that wasn't here in orientation?
Yes, I'm Patrick
Hey,
Larkin.
Patrick.
I work as a business system analyst for the Clinical Research Information Systems team. And country, let's see, I'm actually going to Scotland and Ireland soon.
Whoa,
So I'm excited about that.
nice.
Have some scotch. That's number one on the list.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't comment on the cuisine, but I can definitely comment on the drink. So you're gonna be in good hands. Awesome, cool. Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Ebenezer Akins, with Endpoint Operations. I'm a support specialist over here at West Valley.
Nice.
And yep, looking forward to all the good things this class has to serve us. Country that I've been to, I mean, I'm from Ghana in Africa, so I just came from
Okay.
there earlier this year, but I plan on going to Singapore or Dubai later this year.
Whoa,
Yeah.
nice, nice, nice. I'm helping the government of Senegal. The the first lady is wanting to build a children's hospital, and so might be visiting that part of Africa. Not sure how far that is from Ghana, but that's the closest I'll be. Well, welcome,
Thank
Ebenezer.
you.
Yeah, cool, cool. That's from the Bible, right? Your name,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Awesome. Anyone else?
I'll go, Ian.
Please.
Elise Rosales, I'm the IT facilities manager. My team has oversight of the data centers, layer one cabling in all the hospitals, ambulatory clinics, circuit connectivity to UCLA Health Network. We oversee Ronald Reagan, Santa Monica, West Valley Hospital, also part of the acquisitions team when we look at new facilities. And so I play a lot of travel softball, including all over the United States and internationally. So
Whoa.
wherever they the organization plays, either in Europe, don't know which one I'm going to, either one in Scotland or Thailand next year.
Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome, Alicia. I worked with a PDNC team a few years ago when we were putting the Clarity tool there. Do you work with a PDNC a lot, I assume?
Every day.
Have good folks over there. Have good folks. So, good, good. Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So let's hop back into our curriculum here. Let me figure out how I can see your faces while I have the screen open. 1 second. There we go. There, I think I got it. All right. So for those of you who weren't in the orientation, just going to go over this super quickly. So the reason why we include version 6 and version 7 is because a lot of the nuts and bolts of project management were really talked about in PMBOK 6. Think of it as the technical manual, right? And version 7 was made more for people who want to understand project management more on the execution phase, like things that I can, pick up and use right away. So 6 is truly going into the inputs, the tools and techniques, the outputs, different knowledge areas. It's a very different approach. And just my humble opinion, if you really want to understand project management, enterprise project management, and how everything fits together in the back end, PMBOK 6 is going to be your friend. If you want to understand how to use it day to day, then the version that we're going through, 7, is the tool for that. So having both in your toolkit is going to be amazing for you. So you won't just understand how to use it, but you also understand the back end. How does it all come together? So that's going to be Michelle's focus, version 6. And obviously my focus would be version 7. We did talk about the slides already. So I'm gonna skip through this. Got the slides down. And this was a big win because just getting those Google Classroom set up usually takes a lot more time. So thank you guys for working with us and getting this set up relatively easily. Okay. All right. So for today, make this presentation mode here. Okay, I changed it to presentation mode. Can you guys still see it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to create high-performing teams. So this will be in the book more under resource management. And we're going to talk about how to build a team, define the ground rules, why that's important, how you negotiate project agreements, right? How do you empower the team? Training team members, stakeholders, supporting virtual teams, and how to create a shared understanding about the project. And I'm I'm super happy that we have the book now because I obviously can't go into all of the stories, but now you have an added reference that really dives into it. For example, um, how to create amazing team. Costco is an amazing example of creating an amazing team at scale. If you talk to any Costco member, employee, they love working there. They love the benefits. The pay is very competitive. So they really thought through um, how to create and attract an amazing team. On the flip side, you have companies like WeWork that Adam Newman put together. And his focus was less on how to improve employees. His focus was more on how to make the employees feel good. And so, I delved into that a little bit more detail. And so I'm super happy because now you can kind of use that as a reference guide to look more into the guts of how did that go wrong? What did they do? And there's a lot of parallels into how we run projects and how we lead people. And I hope that as we go through this, and you have experiences where either things have gone well, either you as a project manager, leading your team, or as a project team member, the good experiences, the bad experiences. Please, 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 go ahead and share as we go along, because that's what really helps, bring this to life. All right. Uh, okay, so for building a high performance team, right? These are some of the skills um, uh, d- that you're going to need, and also some of the tools. So I think it was Lao Tzu that said, if you know yourself and don't know your enemy, you win half the battles. If you know yourself and you know your enemy, you win 100% of the battles. So the skill sets is knowing yourself, is knowing your team, and understanding um, where your strength ends and where the strength of another person begins. A lot of times when people have, different skill sets, different experiences, and they can contribute in a lot of things, it's helpful, but as a project manager, you want to make sure that, let's say, Kyle is your subject matter expert in terms of, let's say, database, that when it comes to issues like that, that we lean on Kyle to, give as much input as possible. If Kenny is the expert, let's say, for example, on uh, putting together the architectural infrastructure, then we want to get Kenny in on all those conversations and have him weigh in more. There's there's a company that was built by Ray Dalio, Bridgewater. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it. It's the largest private equity company in the world. And I've been a huge student of Ray Dalio and his books. If you haven't read it, it's, please put it on the list. Principles, there's so much. But anyway, what he has done that has been insanely amazing for me is when he conducts his meetings. Let's say, for example, we're talking about um, which location to start, let's say, a new orthopedic center. And let's just say that Chris Nofal has experience in that. He's done it before. He's seen the good, bad, and the ugly. When we vote on, whether to do it in Wilshire or Westwood or whatever, Chris actually has a weighted vote. So his vote could be times 2 or times 3, depending on how much he knows about this. And so if there's 5 of us and Chris' vote is, times 3, then he counts it as Chris and then 3 more. And this weighted approach, right, has helped them become, well, the biggest in the world, because they really value your skill set and they really value your opinion. So we'll talk more about Ray Dalio and his approach as we go along. I just wanted to mention that in terms of knowing the skill sets of your team. So that time that you spend, you invest in getting to know what the team has worked on will really help you as you go along. Technology. So you want to make sure that the tools that you use to communicate, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's, well, in our case right now, Google Classroom, right? Whether it's email, whether it's Zoom, um, friction is your enemy when it comes to technology. So as a project manager, you want to make sure that you decrease as much friction as possible. You know, if you have links that lead to another link, that just that friction point, especially if it's a recurring friction point, will just decrease engagement. So I want to make sure that um, your processes is as frictionless as possible. Resource management plan, we'll talk about this later in more detail. This entails, everything about your resources, their strengths, their weaknesses, their schedules, um, assignments, deliverables. So all of that goes into the resource management plan, and we'll break that down in a few more chapters down the road. Rates, obviously, for the team, um, you want to know what the rates are, and this is more for your budgeting, right? Cost management, resource assignment. So one of the things, hard lesson that I had to learn about this is that you want to be mindful of the team's holidays. So I made a big mistake of scheduling a go live around Diwali. For those of you who know what that is a celebration of light that India celebrates, and no one, and I mean no one, is on their computer during that time. It is an amazing festival if you're celebrating. It is an absolutely horrible thing if you're doing go live. So, as part of your resource assignment and scheduling, make sure when people are, take a look at your teams, take a look at the holidays, either, national holidays or personal holidays. You don't want your architect to be in, well, Portugal while you're doing your testing, for example. So you want to be mindful of that. We'll talk about the RACI matrix later as well. We'll break that down. But love to ask the team, does anyone know what RACI stands for? Have you heard of this before? Any guess? So I'll give a hint.
Yes.
Art is responsible. So who's responsible in the group? How about
I didn't want to say anything because I remember your comment that I'm not supposed to be here, but since no one said anything.
Berlin? Hold on. Hold the horses. You absolutely are supposed to be here, but you know a whole lot. So yes, please take it as a compliment. But yes,
Okay, it looks like Jennifer put it in the comments, so.
all right, all right. Well, Jennifer, come on. I don't want to just listen to my voice here. So speak it.
I couldn't remember the A, but responsible, I put accountable. That's what I thought.
Yes,
But
yes, it is. You're
it
correct.
is okay. Consulted and informed.
Yes, yes, yes. So, all right. Well, while we're on the topic, I'd love for you guys to venture a guess. What does responsible mean in your own words, not the textbook, but when you say I'm responsible, what does that mean?
The group who is in charge of the action items, the primary action items.
The to-dos, right? I'm gonna execute on this. I'm gonna do it. How about accountable? What does accountable mean?
You're responsible. Once again, you're responsible for what is happening. It's your responsibility to make sure that it happens correctly.
Buck stops with you,
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
there's a liable one.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the test, and so as we go through, if there are items here that show up on the test, I'm going to stop and call it out. And this is our first call out. So for the test, the difference between responsible and accountable is that there are multiple people responsible for multiple things, but there's one person accountable for the project. Um, Endearingly, it's called the throat to choke. It's just, who are we going after if this project doesn't go well? So a lot of people for responsible, one person for accountable. So take a note of that for the test. C, consult. What does that mean for you guys? So my day job is a consultant. So what do people do when they interact with me?
You're not responsible, but you're consulted on a task. Like you're someone that will be asked to advise on a task.
Absolutely, Chris. So consultants are people who are subject matter experts. I'll give you a story here that I absolutely love. So way back when, I was the business manager for the Heart and Vascular Institute. And the chief operating officer said, "Hey, Ian, we're getting a lot of complaints about how slippery the floors are in the cath lab." And I'm like, huh, okay. So I reached out to the cath lab managers and people involved, and I said, we let's put together a task force to address this issue. And so, and I let them, pick who to come to this meeting about the slippery floors. And lo and behold, everyone there was either a supervisor or manager, right? And I said, this is interesting. Who amongst you knows the brand of soap that we use for the floors? Guess how many people know the answer to that? No one. Okay. The next question. Who amongst you know how many times we use said soap for the floors? Guess who knew that? No one. Last question. Who among you know if we recently changed the soap for the floors? No one. So who would be the subject matter expert in this scenario that was not at the table?
The person mopping the floors.
The person mopping the floors, absolutely. So when you think about subject matter expert, don't think about, the PhD smoking a pipe with a nice hat, right? That could be in some instances, but more often than not, it's not that guy. It's the person that's frontline, is involved has done this, knows what's going on. And so, needless to say, my next meeting did not have supervisors and managers. My next meeting were folks who, well, did the work. And they said, yeah, we recently switched brands because the other brand increased prices and we went to this brand. And I'm like, well, it might be worthwhile to go back to the brand that worked, although it was a little bit more expensive than the cheaper brand that's slippery. I don't know. Just thinking out loud here. And so, needless to say, we switched back, and the complaints of the slippery floors went away. But this is an example of how the subject matter expert is the person that you least think about when you're trying to pull together a task force. And it's not your title, it's what you know that matters. All right. So that's another example too for the test, because they'll try to trick you into getting the lead of that department or the supervisor or the manager, whoever. But you want to be as close to the action as possible. So write that down. Consult is the person that knows the most about the issue. It's not about the title, but the person who knows the most about the issue. All right, last letter, letter I. What does I stand for?
Informed.
Inform. And what does that mean? You can do it. When you're
What does
informing
people,
someone, what does that mean?
just people you got to keep up to date. Like normally they're leaders. You sometime might have a meeting bi-weekly if it's really high level, or once a month or something. You just give you up to date your progress on on the project and where things are. So more of a status update.
Yep. And colloquially, that's called keeping people in the loop, right? So you're just making sure that they know what's going on. More likely than not, these are your high-level executives. They just want to let them know, hey, project's going well. This is what we're working on. You don't really need an action from them, right? You don't need them to make a decision. You don't need them to do anything. You're just keeping them in the loop. For the test, when you're looking at people you inform, you want to include people who are directly, and this is for the test, indirectly affected by the project. And this is what, even in real life, IRL, people forget. They only focus on the people directly affected by the project and not necessarily those indirectly. I'll give an example. So, working on intervention radiology, we had to install a new barrier, a new shield for the wall. There's a lot of for those, I think it was Kenny that was working in facilities. You know this. There are a lot of parameters around the infrastructure around the walls for an MRI, right? And so we had to redo ours to meet I think it was earthquake compliance, something. And so that area, needless to say, was closed, right? So we informed everyone that, was working in interventional radiology and patients that were scheduled for that. I think it was 2.5 weeks that it was down. But guess what we forgot to do? We forgot to make signs for people that had to go through interventional radiology to get to lab, to get to other areas of the hospital. So we didn't make signs for that. So guess what? The most frustrated people, most complaints we got were folks who were not affected by interventional radiology, but were affected by the fact that they had to walk around and there weren't signs as to how to quickly navigate towards either the lab or the other areas, since they can't just walk through, right, the interventional radiology area. So when you're thinking about that letter, inform, make sure that you take into account those that are indirectly affected by your project as well. So cool. All right, pre-assignment tools. This is for, and we'll dive more into this when we get to resource management. These are just tools to help you plan. And again, this is early in the project where you don't really know a lot, but you know that, you know what, I'm gonna need Jennifer, so I'm thinking about blocking off this time. These are your placeholders, right, that you put on the schedule when you don't have that much detail yet. And virtual teams, everyone knows what this is. Our call right now is a virtual call with you guys being part of the virtual team. So these are folks that are working either within the area, but not physically there, or obviously, you know, outside offshore teams as well. So all of these things you need to be mindful of as you're building a team. And also, especially if you have virtual teams that are like in Eastern Europe, for example, obviously India, um, that being mindful of the time zones, right? And being mindful of um, how does this work for your team member at that time? Are they dropping off their kids? Are they picking up their kids? What's going on? Are they about to get ready for dinner, right? It might be, for example, if you have teams in, let's say Senegal, they're, you know, plus 9 hours. So you have to factor that in. If your, you know, meeting is at 10 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock there. So they're probably about to, you know, get ready for dinner. So as you look at virtual teams, be very mindful of the time zones and what people are doing at that time. So another thing I wanted to mention is that over the course of the 10 weeks, what you'll notice is we're going really slow with topics that we're introducing for the first time, right? A lot of these topics are going to be repeated as we go along, and then we're going to go faster. But the first time we encounter them, we're going to take some time, and then we're going to go faster. So um, for those of you who are like, oh man, how are we going to get through all of this topic? we're spending so much time on this one slide. Just know that it's going to speed up as we go along, and you guys are going to finish on time. So awesome. And I saw Mike join. Hey, Mike. We have a few new folks who weren't in the orientation. I'd love for you to say a few words if possible, just welcoming our new folks.
Well, yeah, good morning. Busy Friday morning, and happy to be here. And for those who are joining and weren't at orientation, welcome. We're thrilled that you're able to join us. I just signed in, so I don't know what Ian has covered. So this program has been updated and changed for quite a number of years now. We started in a classroom, and we required an all-day session with everyone being on site all day on a Friday. That's pre-pandemic. And at the end of each of the cohorts, we would do a lesson on what worked, what didn't work, what can we do better, and how to present the information differently or better. And each time we feed that information back in for the next cohort. So this cohort gets the benefit of the number that are, and how it's been presented with the midweek study group, led by Michelle, the lectures on Friday, led by Ian, and then the homework assigned and the practice test questions we found to be the perfect match to get everyone prepared to be comfortable and competent to sit for the exam at the end and pass the test. We mentioned during the orientation that we have a much, much, much higher first-time pass rate than the international average. We're at 92+% first-time pass rate. International average basically is slightly less than 30%. So our approach has proved to be very effective. And one of the things that's important to me is we don't want to make people who are just comfortable to take the test and pass it and forget everything they've learned. It's important to me that as you go through this class that you become comfortable with project management as a topic and start filtering that knowledge into your daily work and into the projects that you lead in UCLA. we're looking to make better project managers, not better test takers. So at the end of the day, we want you to be really good for UCLA to deliver the projects or work on the projects you've been asked to work on. And oh, by the way, also very confident and comfortable about the education as well. So our goal is both of those items, and with maybe even a little bit of emphasis on the project management side, as opposed to making sure you pass the test. So there's a lot of things that we cover that are items that we're intending for them to be used on Monday. So throughout today, as Ian is presenting, you will hear things that will be maybe new, but as we get to the afternoon session, we'll start folding in things that will be, oh, here's something you can use on Monday, and there'll be a little quick hit or quick tip of that type of information, and you should see that each time we meet. This is something that the PMO looks forward to each year. We like the engagement. We like these sessions. We like hearing what's working, not working. If you have feedback, don't wait until the end of the session or the cohort. Let us know throughout. We do course corrections as needed when needed to make this a better experience for everyone. So as we said during the orientation and today, we're thrilled that you're here. We're thrilled that the organization has backed your participation. The organization knows, and you're learning. This is a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of focus. And it's away from your work life. It's away from your personal life. We recognize that. We try to make it a good investment for everyone, and trying to give you tools to make your career and your project management skills just better. And anything we can do either through the course or just personally, if you have just random questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us in the PMO, and we'll be happy to help. But yeah, this is an exciting several weeks each year that we do look forward to, and we're just happy to share it with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And yeah, the Mike has a wealth of knowledge in different industries, and I call on Mike to help bring these texts to life. And he's someone that I've been bugging to write a book because he has so many stories, and it really makes for a thrilling read when Mike finally puts that on paper. So yeah, so thank you, Mike, for your support. And as Mike said, please don't wait until the end of the program to give us your feedback as things come up. What's working, what can be improved, let us know. We're always welcome to make adjustments. So cool. All right. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Still see my screen? You good? Okay,
Yes.
cool. All right. So, project resource management, as we talked about earlier, really includes identifying, acquiring, and managing the human resources needed to successfully complete a project. Now, the identifying part is something that is very crucial, because if you have a resource, and again, it's not about good or bad. It's a lot to do with fit. And it's hard when you're just, starting out a project. And especially if you've never worked with these folks before, it's hard to figure out if they're a good fit. But as you go along, what you'll find is that fit is more important, at least in my mind, than just the raw competency or expertise. You obviously need someone who can do the work, right? But the fit within the team, the dynamics, is more important in the long run, because it either brings out the best in the other team members, or it makes other team members shy away. And especially in the on the technology side, You have, you've heard of the mad scientist, the brilliant, programmer or coder that is just amazing, but people don't want to work with them. And so what happens is folks eventually either ask to be put on a different project, or in the company, some of them just quietly resign or eventually leave. So make sure that when you're looking at the resources, don't just look at the competency, the experience and expertise, but be well attuned to their character, their attitude, how they conduct themselves in meetings. How do they deal with disagreements, right? If there's someone that disagrees with them, do they get defensive and can't hear the other person's point of view? So these are things that you want to be mindful of, again, as you're finding the resources and the acquiring, and we'll talk more about managing later. So as you know, as project managers, our project team members aren't our employees. We quote unquote borrow them from the operations manager to help with a very specific need, right? Um, so especially for us here at UCLA, thankfully we have resource managers that can help us with that. And so you identify, you acquire, you manage, and down the road, we'll talk about, the transition back to operations. All right. All right. So there are items that you will need to commit to memory as we go along, right? As with any test, any standardized test, there are terms that you need to remember. And this is one of them. So project team, set of individuals who support the project manager in performing the work. Remember earlier we talked about responsible in the RACI chart? Does anyone remember what responsible means and what that entails? You guys said it.
Several people responsible for different actions on the project.
And the key word is, it's on the slide.
Multiple people are
Set of
responsible.
individuals.
Perform.
Form.
So the key for responsible is perform. You're the one that's doing the work, right? You're performing the work. Accountable is the person that ensures that the work is done. But the project team is part of the responsible, and they're the ones that, so if you're writing notes, project team equals perform, right? So they're the ones performing the work. All right.
And times are here. We're at 11.
Hey, Patrick, thank you so much. Cool. So again, every hour we take a 10-minute break. So let's go ahead and do that. I have 11:01. So let's regroup 11:11. So for the numerologists in the group, that's a lucky number. So talk to you in 10 minutes. All right. Welcome back. Chris, you received a spam call from 111.
It was spooky. It was right when you said, "Oh, we'll come back at 11:11." I'm like, "What?"
Then, yeah. I really have elaborate tricks, Chris, to make this class engaging, and that's one of them. That is wild. All right. Cool. Well, let's see how many. Okay, so everyone's back. All right. So moving along. So again, to put together your high performing team, um, for the test, these are the keywords that they want to be able to they want to know that you know. So estimate, and you'll see it too. I have a lot of the keywords bolded out, but I will specifically highlight things that you need to write down and remember. So as you've seen, estimate, acquire, that was also bold previously, and manage. So as you look at the test questions, and if you see, an answer that has these keywords, estimate, acquire, manage, more likely than not, that's the one that they're wanting for you to pick, right? So, and we'll talk as we go through. We'll talk about different test taking tips, but as we go through, you'll start to see words that keep coming up, and guess what? In the test, that's also what they'll want to know if you're familiar with those keywords. So, um, any questions on estimate, acquire, and again, we'll talk more about how to manage teams and inspire down the road. But in terms of what they mean, so estimate, that includes the number of people and also the cost, right? How much is it? So you have the rate multiplied by the number of hours for the duration that you think they'll be there. And again, acquire, this is huge because PMI understands that these are not your people, right? They are part of an operations team, and you're just borrowing them for the purposes of the project. And manage, because for that duration, you are effectively, well, the manager of those resources. Create an effective team environment. And what you'll find in chapter 7 is that we'll talk about communication way more than in chapter 6. What PMI, as Mike mentioned earlier, we're always looking for ways to improve the how we do things, and PMI is no exception. So they get feedback from people like you after you take the test, and PMI listens to that feedback. One of the biggest feedback that it received going from 6 to 7 was the fact that we did not put enough emphasis on communication. And in this day and age, and pretty much, any project, if you have bad communication, that almost ensures that you'll have bad outcomes. So we're going to talk a lot about communication, different skills that you can use, active listening, and all of that. Track team performance. So one of I think, the downfalls of managers and leaders is that they they focus more on how the person would feel versus their growth. And so it's not uncommon for project managers and managers in general to say generalities like the team is doing awesome, team is great, all of that, and that's fine. However, you want to praise in public, right? But pull people aside in private to tell them about how they can improve what they're working on. I was talking to my wife last night. She runs her own dental practice, and she was having an issue with the operations manager. And then the main issue was she's not doing really well with scheduling the cases, especially those of the specialties like the oral surgeons and whatnot. And I said, okay, have you brought this up? Her name is April. Have you brought this up to April before? And I said, yes. I said, how did you bring it up? And she said, um, Dr. So-and-so is complaining that we have all these gaps in their schedule. I'm like, okay. And what did she say? She said, I'll fix it. And what happened? She didn't. Okay. Next time you sit down with April, show her what the schedule looked like where the doctors were complaining, and then show her a schedule wherein the doctors were happy. And now figure out, right, how do you get from where you are now to where you need to be, and what are the steps? A lot of times managers just provide the outcome or output that they want without investing the time to figure out that bridge, right? How do you get from here to there? Or if there was a success in the past, what did we do? Like, think of it as a performance autopsy. What did we do to get that outcome? And what is different from what we're doing? And so I told her, don't focus too much on April, but focus on the process and steps that led to these gaps in the schedule. What happened? Figure that out. And from there, the performance takes care of itself, right? If you focus on the process, the steps, the performance takes care of itself. So I'll keep you posted. That was last night. Let's see if it actually worked for April. But these are things that as you're tracking performance, for the test, the most important thing is timely feedback. I'll repeat that, timely feedback. So as things are going well, timely feedback. Let them know right there and then, this is amazing, because then they'll remember. Not 2 weeks from now when they're like, Chris is scratching his head, what did I do again? You've lost it. You've lost that opportunity to lock in the performance with feedback, and now it's part of their memory. Especially if it's something that needs improvement. And don't just say you did a bad job. Tell them why is it bad and what are the things that you think can be done to make it better. Resolving issues. So we'll talk about this more with conflict resolution, but needless to say, you don't need to be the one with all the answers for issues, but you definitely need to be the one to pull people together so that we can hash it out in a safe environment, right? And safe environment means that people can express their opinions and not fear repercussions, right? So it's a safe space for people to share opinions. And that starts from the top. And in this case, that starts with you, right? All right. Before I proceed, I'd love to get feedback on from you guys. Any projects that you were on, or even just regular work wherein you had a manager provide amazing feedback as to how to improve, or maybe you provided amazing feedback on how to improve on performance and things went well. Does anyone want to share a story? Anything that comes to mind? Don't be shy, guys.
What's the pointed question? You're looking for an example of when.
Yes, when feedback was given to you that was really good in the delivery, or feedback that you gave to someone that the recipient said, that was an amazing feedback.
Oh, me and Jen have a member on our team. His name is Richard Yaw, and I highly look up to him because of his ability to provide good feedback. He does a really good job of providing that feedback, like praise in public, like we talked about, but also praising off to the side. He does a really good job of like acknowledging people. So Jen, for example, is are expert on some specific functionality in Care Connect, and he always does a great job of acknowledging that, not only in our team meetings, but also with our operational stakeholders. And the way he delivers it is not, it's not too over the top to where you think he's just saying it to saying it. He's delivering it with the right message and the right tone and at the right time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Pete. Yep. And again, for the test, timely, right? It has to be timely so people remember it. Awesome. So project team member requirements, again, we talked about the skill set, right? So they need to have the right competency, right? So that's that first C, that's the skill set. And also the second C is character, right? They need to have the right character, the right attitude to do the job. So it's not just about the first C, competency, it's also about character. And I would argue that character is more important because skills you can learn. And you leverage that. We talked about the weighting system that Ray Dalio uses. So you want to leverage the competency of the folks around you. And if you don't have them, make sure that you reach out and say, hey, we actually need someone who understands this and better than we do. So adequate physical resources. So one of my pet peeves, I guess, is onboarding. Because and you guys probably have experienced this too, you know, everyone's excited to onboard people, but when you get started, either their laptop isn't ready, doesn't have all the right applications, they can't get into that SharePoint link, and you spend like the first week or so just trying to get into things that you need to do for your work, right? So as a project manager, the more you can streamline, the more that people can hit the ground running, right, as soon as possible, maybe in the first few days. There's always going to be things that, you know, need to work on, but hopefully not weeks, right? And so anticipating what your resource will need, what access they need for the job that they're doing makes a world of a difference, because nothing kills the vibe more than Alicia, any comment on that document that we said? And Alicia says, yeah, I clicked on it and I couldn't get in. I put in a ticket. The conversation's moving on without Alicia, folks. So nothing kills the vibe more than not having the tools you have to do the job. So right skill set, leverage that, and make sure that they have the equipment that they need. So, all right, this is a huge one for the test, stakeholder, right? So a stakeholder can be an individual, just a person, a group, an organization that is affected by the project. And it could be directly or indirectly affected, right? So you want to make sure that your stakeholder list includes those that are directly affected and then those who are not directly affected. And your communication plan is obviously different, right? For those who are part of your core team, who are directly affected, but maybe not part of your core team. And then lastly, those who are indirectly affected. So going back to the test. So as I mentioned, we're gonna talk a lot about that RACI matrix. So as you're communicating with the core team, these are the people doing the work. What letter are they in RACI? People doing the work.
R.
Responsibility.
Responsibility.
Absolutely. Yep, yep. So for the responsible, are you communicating to them more frequently or less frequently compared to other stakeholders?
More.
More, exactly, exactly. And are you using multiple modalities, meaning in-person, email, Teams message, multimodal or unimodal?
Multi?
Multi. Yep. And how about, oh, lastly, are you doing more verbal communication or written communication? This is your core team.
Verbal.
Verbal, yeah. You're in huddles, you're in one-on-ones, you're in team meetings, you're in check-ins, a lot of verbal communication. As you go down that list, it moves more towards written communication, right? Because you're maybe sending out an email update maybe once a week for those who are directly affected, but not necessarily part of the core team, and maybe once a quarter, if that, for those who are indirectly affected. Does that make sense? So as you go down that list, the communication is less frequent. And also in terms of the modality, chances are you're communicating with just one or two methods. You're probably just using an email blast, or you're also sharing links with, recent project reports. But when you get down to the indirect, it's probably not even an email. Remember the story that I shared about the IR room being down? The communication there is a printout saying walk around, right? If you're trying to get to the lab, turn left and we'll have signs, right? So that's your indirect way of communicating to, I mean, that's your direct way of communicating to folks who are indirectly affected by said project. So as you think about stakeholder, think about their engagement, think about how you communicate with them, and think about the different modes or modalities that you use to engage with them. So those are tied at the hip, your stakeholder list, your communication plan, and also how frequently are you reaching out to them. And for the test, a stakeholder is not just an individual. It could be a group, it could be an organization, or if you're helping, at the national level, it could be an entire country. So um, I mentioned earlier, I'm part of this healthcare technology group called HIMSS. And way back when, we were putting in a lot of verbiage around the legislation around patient privacy and security, right? So the stakeholders in that case, well, was the country, right? Everyone's going to be affected by that. At some point, everyone either becomes a patient or is taking care of one. So just remember that for the test, a stakeholder is not just an individual. All right, and here we go. So stakeholders come in different shapes and sizes. They could be your customer, could be your supplier, could be your end user. They could be the community, could be the government, employees, managers, and sponsors. Let me see if Mike is still here. Mike, if you're available to talk, I'd love for you to share some of your construction experience and the way you guys look at stakeholder, because it's more than just the person asking for the building or in your case the sprawl of
For
uh,
sure.
yeah, so love for you, Mike, to just share how you think about stakeholders, especially in when you're doing construction.
Okay, so this might take a little bit of framing because this cohort doesn't know that in a past life, I did very large construction projects around the world. So a small project in those days for me would have been $500 million, and many of them were multi-billion dollars, with the largest being like 73 billion. So these were very large construction projects that would take years to complete, plan and complete. And it was fairly common for us to look at stakeholders very widely in order to be successful. So we would look not only at the people who were requesting the particular build and why they were requesting it, but stakeholders would also include the local political infrastructure and what impact it might have on their next election cycle, if there was one coming up during the construction. The traffic patterns and how that might be impacted by construction traffic coming and going and what that would do with commuters, nearby buildings and what the impact would be, the community that surrounded the particular development, what their impacts might be, and the larger community that these things were often being built for, and what their impact would be, and how they would be impacted by the in-process versus completed build, because there are impacts at every step of the way. The large number of design people, the large number of engineers that would have to put together the soil, water, structural type plans for it, all of those are stakeholders as well. Not to mention the actual people that we hire to work on these, which would be thousands to tens of thousands for the duration of the project in order to get it done. So the stakeholder list was very, very large. It would also extend out to the financing sources, because often the organizations that were backing this didn't have billions of dollars to throw at it, so they would get construction loans, drawdown loans, short-term loans, and eventual long-term financial vehicles, which would be all done through different financial vehicles, different partnerships, different banks, often in different countries. All of those are stakeholders as well, and all required status reports. So we would have multiple ways of reporting out our progress. Progress would be written in one way for the financial backers, another way for the community at large, a third way for the traffic patterns, a fourth way for those people who are actually physically on the ground helping to build the project, another for the leadership and engineers, because they all had different points of view of what that project happened to be. So looking at a stakeholder community for those projects, it was not unusual for us to have a couple 100,000 stakeholders, sometimes even more in a highly densely populated area, that we would have to develop plans to communicate with as we went through the execution of that particular project.
Thanks so much, Mike. And thanks for sharing that story, because it's so easy. And again, a lot of the issues that happen, especially after go live, is when folks forget a stakeholder, right? And now they're affected, and now they're like, Kelly, did you think about these guys? Because when we move from this system to that system, apparently pathology also uses it once a month, but you know, now is that time. They need those reports. And you're like, oh man, I didn't know that. So have to backtrack and figure out what you need to do. So figuring out, you know, casting that net large and wide, as Mike mentioned with the construction, is very crucial. Not just for the test, but also in real life, because missing one of these is, yeah, it causes a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I'll just slip in a footnote to it. A project manager, project director leading a project, whether it's a small, medium, or large project, rarely gets into hot water because they've over-communicated a project status to somebody or what's going on. Where the problems come in is when they under-include people that would like to. So all for the test, even as well as for somebody can start on Monday. Think very widely about who may want to know about it and let them tell you if they don't want to get it, as opposed to assuming they don't. It is just a better practice to send out information widely than more narrowly.
Absolutely. And be okay for people to say, hey, Chris, I think we're good. I don't need to be part of this, you know, email chain or communication. That is perfectly fine, and be okay with that, versus someone saying, hey, Chris, why didn't I hear about this? That's a very different conversation. So cool. All right. So stakeholder information. Now we're getting into a little bit more of the details, right? So identifying the people, what have they done in the past, lessons learned, documents they worked on, really dig into lessons learned, because that will benefit the entire group, right? As you're talking to people, what went well, what didn't go well, what would you have changed, in your previous projects related to what we're working on now. Creating the register, right? So write this down. Those of you taking notes, stakeholder register. This is going to show up in the test. And this is the list, right? This is the document that has the list of people that are going to be affected directly and indirectly by your project. So that document is called stakeholder register, right? Let's So these are the tools and techniques, right? So especially for the ones directly affected, expert judgment, right? So when we say expert judgment, what do we mean by this? Anyone remember from earlier today? A subject matter expert is someone who
Some of the front lines.
Consults.
Doing the actual work.
someone that knows about the actual work. So if you're looking at a slippery floor, do you want to get the manager of EVS or the EVS folks?
The EVS folks.
The EVS folks, people who know the most about it. And going back to our RACI chart, subject matter expert would be which letter?
Consulted.
Consult, exactly. Letter C, letter C. Awesome. So things that you can use, questionnaires, surveys, brainstorming. For the test, when we say brainstorming, all suggestions are allowed. Think of it as a funnel. You put all of the ideas. Remember way back when, this time before COVID, where we had sticky notes and we put it up on the wall. Actual sticky notes, not sticky notes on Trello. And you put your ideas on the wall and then you look at it. And that first part of brainstorming, there are no bad answers, right? So you put all of your ideas on the wall. You do not filter that initial step. Just put your ideas. And again, it's like a funnel. So after you put all the ideas, then you go through the ideas, literally in this case, put on the wall. And then you look at, okay, let's now then group them together. The ideas are similar or the same, group them together. And then you start looking at which of these ideas, make sense. So for the test brainstorming, you do not filter that initial step. All ideas will be looked at. Stakeholder analysis. So stakeholder analysis, document analysis, but we'll talk more about documents later. But when you're looking at, remember, we start with the stakeholder register right here, right? Stakeholder register. And then after that, you do your stakeholder analysis. We'll talk about who has power, who has interest, who has influence, right? So these are different ways of looking at your stakeholders. In terms of power, what this means is who has the ability to authorize things. So if you're writing down notes, power equals authorize, right? Who has the ability to authorize things? Interest is, this is someone that's usually the most affected by it. So if the more affected they are by your project, the more interested they are, right, in the outcome. So this is directly correlated with how they're affected. Influence, these are people who might not have the power, but might be able to influence people who have the decision-making ability. A perfect example of this is your vice president's admin. If you don't have a really good relationship with the admins and you're trying to book a meeting with the project sponsor, the vice president, guess what? Those meetings are going to be 2 weeks out, right? So these are folks who have influence, not directly are authorized, but have influence. So this is also, for example, let's say that you're going back to my example, construction, right? So in construction, there's a lot of permitting that needs to go on, right? Both in the city level and beyond. So you might have people that knows the commissioner or whoever is going to review the documents. So that person will have a huge influence. They're not the one signing, but they have a huge influence on the people with the authority, right? So before I proceed, is everyone clear between the difference? Oh, I have one more to take care of. Impact. So impact, this is when you look at the project. How impacted are they by this project? So this goes back to our direct and indirect, right? So if you're a direct stakeholder, chances are impact is high. If you're an indirect stakeholder, chances are the impact is low, right? So power, interest, and impact. So power, what was the keyword there that you're supposed to write down for the test? Anyone?
Authorize.
Authorize, right? So interest, this is the person that's um affected, and so they have a very high interest in the project. Either they're affected directly or indirectly. And impact is again direct or indirect. And influence is these are people without the authority, but they can influence the outcome because they do have relationships with the people in the authority. And they also might have influence with the project team members. So for example, a department manager, right, that's not working directly in the project, right, does not necessarily authorize budgets or whatnot, but they have a huge influence on the people that they're sending your way, right? And if they're saying positive things about it, like, hey, Kyle, I heard you're doing a great job, and this project really means a lot to UCLA. Um, that input has an influence on Kyle, right? So power, interest, and influence. Before I proceed, any questions with those three?
Ian, sorry, would you mind going over the difference between interest and impact?
Sure. So there are stakeholders that are very interested in the project, but not directly affected. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, that I'm part of, let's say the marketing department, right? So, and we're building out a new orthopedic center. So there isn't really a huge impact on me, right? On the marketing side. But I'm very interested in your success because then I can use that as a story to further promote UCLA, for example, right? So they're not in your day-to-day, working on building out this orthopedic center. They're probably not going to be, a patient or client when that opens, but they have a huge interest in making sure that this succeeds because this can be, a key storyline for UCLA. So that's interest. Impact, on the other hand, are folks that are impacted by the project, right? So patients that are going to be going to this orthopedic center, just sticking with that example. So so if you're creating a grid, so for patient, right? So let's go through it. So patients, power, high or low? Low, right? They're not authorizing anything, right? So just think about patients. Interest. So patients who have arthritis or, existing patients going to orthopedic center. We have this new orthopedic center coming up. Are their interests high or low for this project?
High.
High, right? Impact. Are they going to be highly impacted or, low impact?
I would say high too.
High, if they're going to be seen there, right? Influence. if they voice their concerns, might be a medium to none. Maybe not that big of an influence, but they sure have a huge interest and are sure are impacted, right? Another example might be family members, right, of the patients, right? So those that are caregivers taking care of these patients, their interests are definitely super high, right? But in terms of direct impact, probably low, right? Because it's not them that are going to use this facility. So those are the difference between power. Can you authorize things? Interest, how invested are you in the success of this? And impact, does this impact you directly? And influence, do you have influence on the people making the decisions or the people taking part in the direct work, the project team members? So power, interest, influence, and impact.
Thank you.
No worries.
Quick question on that. So why do you have it specified here, power/interest, power/info, like those specific?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what you can do is you can have think of it as a grid. So there are people that might have high power. They're vice presidents, they're in the C-suite. So they have high power in the organization. But this might not be something that, they're necessarily impacted in. They're not that interested in this project. So why this matters is because you want to keep them in the loop, want to keep them informed, but maybe not as frequent, right? Because they're just kind of looking at it in the periphery. But for folks that have high power and high interest, you want to keep these guys as informed as possible, right? So let's say you're building um, uh, an electrical plant and in the hospital, right? And the COO is involved because this, maintenance and facilities usually roll up to the COO. So in terms of power, is the COO high power or low power?
Hi.
High power, right? Does the COO, sorry, have high interest or low interest in this?
Hi.
High interest. So in terms of your communications, is it going to be more frequent or less frequent?
Always.
More frequent.
More. Yes.
Exactly. So that's why you have these different ways of looking at it. The same thing with going down the list with power and influence. So let's say that we're doing a heart walk, right? We're doing a heart walk. And let's say that, this is under marketing, but marketing, reports up to the CEO. And we're just going to stick with the COO in this example. So he's still included in the communication. We're doing a heart walk on Sunday. So in terms of power, even though he's a COO, in this case, he's not approving a lot of things. It's the chief marketing officer that's approving it, and it's the CEO that eventually can veto or whatnot. So even though he's a CEO as a position in the organization, in terms of power for this particular project, the Heart Walk, does he have high power or low power?
Low.
Low power, right? And in terms of influence, does he have high influence or low influence?
And this is the COO, correct?
COO, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, low.
Low. So actually, no. So influence is still high because he has direct communication with the CEO. And he or she can say, hey, I heard about that thing on Sunday. How's it going? Well, we were expecting, 1,000 people to join. But right now registration is at 400. And he might make a comment. Would it be better if we pushed it out a month? Can he make that decision? No, right? He's not the CMO or the CEO. But that comment, right? Imagine that conversation happening in the hallway or in the cafeteria. That comment right there will carry a lot of weight when the CEO and the marketing person meets. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So low power, but still high influence. And the last one, impact and influence. So let's say that you're the director of radiology, and we'll just stick with that construction of IR that we talked about earlier. So are you highly impacted or less impacted by this project? Director of radiology. And the project is construction in interventional radiology.
You're impacted by it. I mean,
So
you're
high,
highly,
right?
yes,
Super
yes.
high, the highest. So high impact. How about influence? Do you have high influence or low influence?
I think you would have high influence.
Absolutely, high influence as well. So these are just examples of how different people, depending on the project, their roles are the same, right? The COO, like for the example we gave, your role in the company is the same, but depending on the project that's happening, you might either have high power, high interest, um, high impact, high influence, and vice versa. So the main point here, and the reason why PMI includes this section, and you'll see it in the test as well, you'll definitely have at least one question about this, is because they want to underscore the fact that as projects change, the impact on stakeholders change. And it could be that you're the COO, but you have low power, low impact. You could be EVS and you could have high power, high impact, right? With the example of the slippery floor that we were working on, right? So that's one of the things that they really want to underscore, that different people can have different impacts on projects depending on the type of project that you're doing. So cool. Hope that helped.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Perfect. No worries. So yeah, so again, for the test, stakeholder register, right? It's the list, it's the document that has the individuals, organizations involved in the project. And those who might be positively or negatively affected by it as well. So remember that story of interventional radiology, we had the construction, and the people who needed to get to the lab, right, who had to walk around because of this, are they negatively or positively affected by my project?
I would say negatively.
Negatively, right? Because you just added more distance in between, where they are and where they need to go. So, yep. And here's an example of a stakeholder register. You have the name, you have the organization, the role, some requirements. For the test, PMI isn't too rigid in terms of the actual templates, the actual columns and rows, because they understand. They understand that different projects and different industries have different templates, have different documents, but they do want you to understand that, regardless of, let's say, for example, stakeholder register, regardless of the industry, regardless of the project, you need to know the names, you need to know where they're associated with, the roles, what's their interest in it. Are they internal, external, things like that. So you don't need to memorize this, but just be familiar with it. Should you get a question of what are the common things that you should expect in a stakeholder register, right? So what are the common things? And so the bare minimum obviously is the name, what the role is, in terms of the project. So Gracie chart, we talked about this already. And here's an example, right? So as you can see, accountable, responsible. And so this is actually, I need to update this slide. These are slides that came from PMI, but I just noticed that they put multiple C's. So disregard this, because for the test, you can have multiple responsible, but just one. Oh no, sorry, my bad. I need to eat. It's correct. It's A, it's the accountable one. So you can have multiple consults. I don't know why I was seeing C as A, but this is correct. So you can have multiple consults, you can have multiple responsibles, but you just have one accountable. Right. So for every line item, you need to have one person accountable. All right. Does that make sense before we move forward? Okay, cool. All right. So team skill appraisal, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You want to make sure that you understand the team's strengths, the team's weaknesses, opportunities for improvement. And I also want to add this, aspirations. So, oh, sorry. When we talk about aspirations here, like, what are the skill sets that you might want to acquire while we're doing this project with the team members that we have available to us? So let's say, for example, Nick, he wants to pick up a little bit more of Python or JavaScript. And it just so happens that we have Jasmine here, who's really good at Python, and Jennifer, who's really good at JavaScript. So as a project manager, you want to create opportunities wherein Nick can be exposed to it and hopefully pick up a thing or two. So by the time we're done with the project, Nick knows a little bit more of Python and JavaScript, if that's what he is interested in. So don't skip this step, this aspiration step. So aspiration is, what do you want to learn, pick up, grow into, that you can get from the project we're working on right now. And aspirations can also include, let's say, for example, Alicia, if I remember correctly, your role is COO, right? Okay. So let's say that Jennifer, she wants to eventually be a COO later in her career. So I would find ways to partner Jennifer with Alicia as much as I can, so that Jennifer has an opportunity to talk to Alicia more about, hey, how did you get to where you are? What are the things that you had to pick up along the way? What are the skill sets that I need to have so I can be you one day? So knowing that really helps with the team, not just for the project, but in terms of building that connection and trust amongst each other. And also, it shows that you, as the project manager, really care about the team as individuals, not just as resources executing on the project. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. As much as you can, you want to try to respect team's preferences, times of calls, things of that nature. You want to at least hear everyone out, but, make it clear that you cannot accommodate everyone's preferences. You try your best, but, but at least you hear people out. So just remember, for team skills appraisal, don't forget about aspirations. Jennifer, no worries. We'll catch you this afternoon. What time is it?
Well,
Oh, so yes.
Yes.
Who was my timekeeper? So yes, thanks for letting me know, Jennifer. As you can see, I get lost in thought as we're going through this. So please let me know if we're either at time or need to take a break. this was really helpful. Before we take a break, I just want to spend literally just 1 minute with you guys. Any comments, thoughts about our first half session for the program?
Learning a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. This is good.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
Right.
And the recording will be available when?
So recording should be available. I send it out usually like Monday, somewhere
Okay.
thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm working on the weekend, please ignore it. You might see it come out on Saturday or Sunday. But yeah. In terms of pacing, are we too fast, too slow, just right?
I would say just right.
I would too. I thought
I
it was just
agree.
right.
Okay, cool. If ever I'm going too fast, please let me know. And if I'm going too slow, just tell me to drink more coffee. All right. Thank you guys. We will reconvene at 2 o'clock and enjoy the. Oh, Carlin, I'll try to figure out the transcript because there is a transcript that I can get, but the transcript is like literally as we're talking. So if you want to read the transcript, you have to scroll through the 2 hours. So not sure. I can send you that file, but it's not like how Zoom creates that nice summary that has, like these were things talked about and these are the action items. The transcript is like this text file that literally just has all the verbiage. So I can send it to you if you find it useful. But I was like,
I think it is useful, unless one thing you can do too, you could make me co-host and I can just like save it myself in the end.
oh,
So up
oh,
to you on what works.
yeah.
I like to go through it just so I don't miss anything.
No worries. I can send you that text file.
Okay.
Once we're done, it creates that text file. So no worries.
Okay. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will see you guys at 2.
Thank you.
Thank
See you later.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.